Yeah. Just put it in there.
Get that
You'll put it in my office.
Anyway, they left last year. Look after her. They spent 6 days on the road. About 5 different ranches. Tyler asked me, I'm thinking, pick up this bull out there that's, I was bought 2 years ago. I'm interested in this guy. On the road. Truck's about 75,000. Trailers 70,000.
Good to see all y'all. You too.
Not driving it off.
Made it back safe. That's good.
That was a good kid. Really.
I told him that.
Yeah, different.
I don't know him very well, but I've been impressed with him when I've been around him.
Well,
It's good that y'all can take all that
Instagram.
It's pretty special.
I have at 1 o'clock, so wanting to start on time, unless I hear any objections. Is Monique on?
She should be right there.
Okay. I'll call this meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Amon Vet. Here. Hal Bynum.
Here.
Moniece Hagler.
She's there, I can
There
tell.
she is.
I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you. And as required, Moniece, is anyone with you?
Monique, she asked if anyone was in the room with you, and it looks like you're in the car.
Hold on a second, let me get a little more sound here.
Be careful
Okay, I
driving.
am alone in my car.
Thank
Okay.
you so much. Art Sparks,
Here.
Anderson Starling,
Here.
Julia Wells, not here. Johnny Wolford,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. Julia could not be with us today. She has just gotten released from going through the COVID protocol and felt like she had some things that she had to get done with business, and we certainly understand this. We want to note that all these proceedings are open to the public and it's being streamed via campus website. All the materials are posted on the advisory board website. All votes will be taken by roll call vote, with the members participating by electronic means deemed to be present at the meeting for purposes of voting. And he's already said we do have a quorum. We certainly want to welcome publicly now. We've just had lunch with her, with Aman Ahmed. Her first meeting, she is the student representative for the 22-23 year. She is a junior majoring in political science from Cordova. Also, Dr. Anderson Starling, serving as the faculty representative for the 22-23 year, or 22-24 year. Actually, it's a 2-year appointment. This is your first official meeting. You were with us at the last meeting. You're an associate professor in political science and interim chair of the Department of Accounting, Finance, Economics, and Political Science. Which side is the debit on?
You know, that's hard for me to say. That's not my discipline.
Good answer. But you're in charge of accounting, okay? All right. Our first item of business is the approval of the minutes, which were sent out electronically previously. Do I have a motion or any corrections or amendments to the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes?
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Edie, you want to do a roll call vote?
I do. Mon, Annette,
Aye.
Albina,
Aye.
Moniz Hagler,
Aye.
thank you. Art Sparks,
Aye.
Anderson Starling,
Aye.
Johnny Wilson.
Aye.
You have approved.
Okay. The second item is the enrollment update and approval of the strategic plan refreshment that's going to be presented by Dr. Cavalier, who I believe I saw come in. Yep. Great looking hairdo.
Thank you. All the best men have it. Well, I'm very pleased to be able to report that enrollment-wise this fall, we've made some progress off of the downturn we had last year. We ended the census day with 6,868 students head count, which is up about 170 off of last year. So that's tremendous news. And the majority of that comes from new students in each of three categories. We have an increase in our first-time first-year students this year of about 43, I believe is the number. We have an increase of 44 new graduate students in their programs compared to a year ago, and about 5 on the transfer. So in each of the new categories, new students, we brought in more than we did last year, and that's really good. Now, overall enrollment, we're going to live with a lower or smaller first-year class from last year over the course of 4 admission cycles. So that's going to work through. Our retention rate is up to 71%. It was 70% last year, and that's sounds like a small increase, but that's real students and a lot of work, especially given some of the headwinds we've had over the last 6 months. And I just want to give a shout out to our new director of retention, Brad Baumgartner. He and his student success folks. Keith, am I still in you were going to talk about this? I don't want to. You were?
No, please.
You sure?
Yeah.
Sure. Brad and his staff spent a good chunk of the summer, about 10 weeks of the summer, calling 569 students, emailing them, texting them, who were eligible to return this semester but had not registered. And they wound up through that work bringing 268 of those students to campus. And that was focused, intentional work. He did a great job of getting those folks working on that. This was his first summer. So the retention, I believe, is going to continue to go up, and the work of Brad and his folks was absolutely tremendous. I want to point out a couple of things. Our new graduate student enrollment is the highest it's ever been. 268 new graduate students. That's a record for us. Our graduate student enrollment is flat, but that's only because we graduated 315 graduate students last year, which was 3 times the number of graduate students we graduated 4 years ago. So the graduate programs are booming. A lot of that has to do with the work of Joey Melhorn, who is the Dean of Graduate Studies and has done an amazing job, and the other deans who have been supporting his work. Our MBA program, when I got here, I think we had 38 MBA students. This year we're at about 185. So that's incredible, and we've got some new graduate programs. That is very, very exciting news, and I think we'll continue to see that kind of growth. So that's sort of a general enrollment picture. At the board meeting at the end of October, the board will see all of the details about student success indicators related to enrollment, retention, graduation rates. So we'll share that as soon as they've received that document. But our graduation rate, 6-year graduation rate, looks like it's up again from last year, 0.5 percentage point, but still up. So any questions about enrollment? Keith, you want to add anything?
No, good update.
How do we compare with some of our peers?
Well, Knoxville has blown up, right? I mean, they've got every hotel in Knoxville, there's putting students in. That's actually not true, but they are putting it in one. UTC, I think, is about 1% up, flat roughly. MTSU, flat to down. Overall, we're up 6.5% on headcount, 5% on headcount. So I think we did really well. The TBR schools, the community colleges as a whole, they're down about 3.5% on their enrollment. So it's something to be aware of into the future because that affects our transfer population. And so their enrollment being down means we have to be aware that could affect us. But I think we're doing very well compared to others in this state. And I think Austin P also.
Down about 3%.
Yeah, so anyway, you know, whatever is happening out there, I know the things happening on this campus that are the right kinds of things to be doing, and people are doing them very well. And they are serving the students who are in this part of Tennessee, and that's, I think, our mission. So.
Good.
It's gotten more competitive, I think Dr. Cavalier would agree, in West Tennessee. Memphis was down this fall, Austin P. And so when you look at some of the folks that we're constantly recruiting against, in their terms of their percentages being down, it's become a real battlefield, for lack of a better term, in West Tennessee. And Knoxville and Chattanooga, Middle Tennessee, they're all spending more time here in our bread and butter counties for UTM. So I'm proud of the way we managed through that this year, and look for better things in the future.
Grateful for that comment because it gave me time to find out which is the right clip.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you for that.
I'm here for you.
Any other questions on enrollment?
Okay, I want to walk through our strategic plan refresh, but it's what we're calling Prepare for Takeoff 2.0. This was not a new strategic plan. We didn't go through the entire strategic planning process. What we wanted to do was figure out where have we come in 3 or 4 years since the Prepare for Takeoff was launched, and what are the things we can build on based on that. And also, I mean, we've had 2 years of COVID and learned some things we could never have anticipated when the strategic plan was being built. We also wanted to put this, or line this up with the system strategic plan, which ends 2025, goes out to 2025. So now we're in line with that, and in 2025, all of us will have a new strategic planning process. But I think, I want to just say that this process was a relatively quick process. So we launched it April 5th, 1st, whatever the date, yeah, 1st. And by July 15th, I had the recommendations from every committee that was working on this. They worked quickly, they worked very, very thoughtfully, and what you don't have, and what I'm not going to share with you here, are all of the accomplishments for each of these goals that we've had since 2018, and that will be part of the website that we put together once the board approves this, assuming they do, along with some dashboards to show how we've made progress. But this is folks thinking about, okay, what do we do now because we've achieved these things, and what do we need to shift because of COVID? This is the timeline. I don't think there's a lot that I want to say other than we've had extensive involvement from different parts of the community, whether that's the cabinet, the leadership, the goal committees, or town halls, and sending out the document to everybody that on campus to have a chance to make comments on, give feedback on.
You know, I think one thing to add is going to SGA next week too, to present to freshman council and student government. That would be our next step, so in the vetting process.
Yeah, and we've had, I want to preempt this question, which might come from you. Every one of these committees did not have students on it, but we did have students on a couple of them, and really the only reason for that is the timeline. When you start something April 1st and you're going to work on it through the summer, it becomes much more difficult to ask students to give their time to somewhat, I understand that, but when we do the full strategic plan, the new one, that will of course include students as well, and as Keith said, they will be giving their feedback at the board meeting, or the SGA meeting. Full committees, staff and faculty across all of the colleges and areas of campus to try and make sure that every constituent group was represented, had a say in these different pieces. And I want to give a shout out in particular to the 10 goal committee co-chairs, because they did a remarkable job and again kept things moving. There was no one was late with anything. No one gave me stuff that I had to do a lot of work on to bring it into shape. So I really appreciate that. So the first goal, and these are the goals from the original strategic plan, is to prepare graduates to be responsible, informed, and engaged citizens in their workplaces in the larger community. And this is an area where we've done a lot of good work already, but there are 3 things, and these are not the only recommendations. I want to just clarify that. You've got in your materials the full document that has all the recommendations from each of these areas, but I think these are some highlights or some things that are really worth talking about. The first is enhancing faculty effectiveness. I'm not going to do PowerPoint karaoke here, but basically what we're talking about here is how do we create a center for teaching excellence where we would have folks whose job is to talk with faculty about how to use technology in their classrooms, how to use different kinds of pedagogies in their classrooms across all disciplines, not just in English, not just in chemistry, but also resources who would be able to say, okay, let's figure out how you can take your face-to-face course and put it online. I mean, I think one thing we all learned during COVID is that does not work, right? Just saying, here's my syllabus, now it's in Canvas, so everything's going to work. Doesn't. So I think having that is a valuable thing. I just think we have an opportunity to do more faculty development around teaching. We have a lot of faculty development around their disciplines and content areas. Faculty go to conferences and present papers and they publish. But this is an area that sometimes, as universities with limited time and limited resources, it gets put to the side. So that's an important one. The second is we want to really make sure that our students have one of these kinds of 4 experiences. Experiential learning is crucial and it has a tremendous impact on students, and that is travel study, internships, service learning, and undergraduate research. I would love, and I think Keith agrees here, though he might not, and will then disagree publicly with me, but I think we all agree that we would like to have every person who graduates from UT Martin have had one of these experiences. In addition to everything, there are all sorts of other good things. But these are the kinds of things that really can, when you talk to alums, oftentimes they will point back to something like this. I remember I did an internship at Ford and this happened, or I did a travel study trip with someone and that happened, or undergraduate research and I wound up going to grad school, or I became went to Merck and became in their R&D area. So that's an important one. The third is we have an opportunity now to rethink how we do first-year education, first-year experience. This FYI is first-year initiatives. That's been in place for 20-something years. We went through a self-study process, very engaged process last year to basically try and figure out for UT Martin what made the most sense for what students should have throughout that first year, whether it's in terms of curriculum, outside stuff, extracurricular, co-curricular, what kinds of onboarding with orientation, things like that. So that will be a major focus for the next year plus, and that is also going to be the focus of our QEP, Quality Enhancement Plan, which is part of our SACS reaccreditation process, which is going on this year. It's always the best time of year when you have SACS coming. So February is going to be phenomenal. Second goal, recruit, retain, graduate students prepared for careers, professions, and for life. So we have 3 here. The first, and this came up repeatedly, and I think I've mentioned this probably in talking to this group before, we really need to look at all of the processes that we have, that we ask our students to go through, with our offices, with the faculty, things like registration. What happens when a student first decides, I want to register at UT Martin? through to getting to their first class. What are the things that that student has to go through, and where are the points where we create unnecessary obstacles for them? Similar things with holds. Do we need to have certain kinds of holds that block people from registering for classes when there are other ways to get at the thing you're trying to have students accomplish? So we want to do essentially kind of an audit of our processes, I think, and I think it's a very important thing to do, and ensure that the thing that's driving any one of those processes, anything we do, anything we ask our students to do, is student success. Not, it's easier for the provost's office if we just do it this way, so let's just do it that way. Well, it may not be good for students to do it that way. If we lose 5, you know, that's a huge loss to the university. So I think that's a really important one. We want to also establish consistency across all of our colleges and departments in terms of how we talk about UT Martin. If I come to UT Martin and I think that I'm coming to the University of Agriculture, and I wind up not liking agriculture, but I've not really understood what UTM is, because I've been focused on that and that's been the message, then if I don't like agriculture, I'm not going to go to University of Agriculture anymore. I'll find someplace else to go. I mean, we need to recruit for programs, don't get me wrong, but we need to recruit for make sure all of our colleges, all our departments are recruiting for UTM first, and this is a part of that experience, not the other way around. And I think that there's opportunities there. And then the last piece here is, well, the last goal I've selected is to reconvene a group that is looking at what we call co-curricular transcripts. So we're just talking about internships, talking about service learning, things like that. How do we get students something that they can bring with them when they're applying for jobs that says, I've done all these things? Because those things don't show up on your regular transcript. So how do we have a co-curricular transcript that lists some of these other things? Okay, number 3 is ensure a campus that is open, accessible, and welcoming to all. I think the first one really is for me, the key piece of the recommendations, and from it, all the other things will follow. We do a lot of things on this campus around inclusion and around diversity and equity, but oftentimes they're done in pockets. So there's a college or a department does particular things really great, or another college has a series that they do that's really valuable. There's no coordinating body right now that does that, and there's no one to try and push out programming that's consistent, again, across all those colleges, using the ideas that colleges or departments that have been doing this well have come up with and been employing for a while. So this group is recommending that we have basically a central steering committee for around diversity, equity, inclusion topics, events, issues, and that becomes it's not quite a clearinghouse, but it's the place where we make sure that we're doing this across campus and not just in little spots here and there. And I think that will be valuable. We also want to ensure that we are developing some goals that are specific, not just saying, well, we want to increase diversity. I mean, that's sure. Is there anybody who doesn't want to do that? No. Right? How would you know that you actually did that? And that's at the level of recruitment. It's at the level of, obviously, retention, but in terms of staff, faculty, administration. How do you know that you have a more diverse staff and faculty and administration if you don't have some baseline to say we want to grow by X? And that's related to the third. 2 pieces of this. One, we really want to establish, and I think this is across the entire institution, more professional development opportunities for folks who have the potential to be leaders on this campus. And whether you want to think of that as succession planning, whether you want to think of that as making sure that you have people who understand the university, I think it's really crucial, especially in this area. So that the DEI folks, or the folks on this committee felt like in terms of DEI, we need to identify, and I have a faculty member in mind, who would be a phenomenal dean, but not just hope that he winds up going and getting that kind of development someplace else, that we get to him and we create those opportunities so that he's ready to be, to contend for that, or compete for that position strongly when it comes. That 5%, I'm just going to say, this came up in our town hall meeting. the way I understand that is all leadership positions across campus, which I'm going to just call 75, and 5% of that, so we're talking increasing that by 2 or 3. The committee, the number of faculty from underrepresented backgrounds, or leaders. The committee felt like they wanted to be conservative about that number, and it could have been 25%, but I think they felt like we're in West Tennessee, and making large moves like that is a very difficult thing to do, but being intentional about wanting to do it is important. So it promotes strategic, sustainable, and responsible stewardship of human, financial, capital resources in support of the university. This is a particularly relevant one, obviously, because last year, we had to make some changes to our budgets midway through the year or towards the end of the year in order to make it all work and do some cuts this year. So this committee was really trying to think about where there are places where we could reallocate money, and how can we be more proactive about preparing for the possibility that we have to do some kind of give back at the end of the year. So a couple things here. First, we have a compensation process for summer school that is based on the percentage of your salary. So that if you're making $200,000 and you get 5% for summer school, then you're going to wind up getting $10,000 for that summer school course, where I am making $50,000, I'm going to get $2,500. So one, that means that the cost of summer school, the expense, is constantly fluctuating, just depends on what's the mix of courses being offered. Two, I think that's just fundamentally unfair to people who are in disciplines that are less well compensated. It's fine to be in a discipline that is better compensated, but I think this group felt, and I agree, that we need to look at something that is a flat rate or something that is more equitable across the entire campus. Now, the implication of that is that we will wind up being able to reallocate some of the money that we are not paying by being fair about what we do pay. That's sort of, but if everybody is making $200,000 and they're getting 10% of their salary, 5% of their salary, that's a lot of money to run summer school, versus if everybody got a flat $2,500. By the way, if there are faculty listening, I'm not saying $2,500 is the number at all. I'm just using that as an example of, because you know, someone watching just emailed me. Second thing is we really have to look at adjunct pay. It has not been increased for, well, a long time. Certainly not my time, and I think a while before I got here. So this group is recommending that we come up with a plan to increase adjunct rates to $2,500 per 3-hour course, which is still a low amount. I mean, it's, you know, that there are schools that pay $5,000, $6,000. We're not going to get there, but that's an important piece. And then the last thing is they recommend that each of the units on campus prepare a plan for how they would give back money out of their budgets if we needed to do that at the end of this fiscal year now, rather than trying to do that after 3/4 of the budget has been spent. The enrollment is very good, and I think, I mean, I don't see that we're going to have the same kind of issue we had last year, but you know, you never know. So I think that was important for them, for us to be thinking ahead, how would we do this in September rather than in February. And finally, through service and advocacy, UT Martin will improve the vitality and prosperity of West Tennessee. This is an area where a lot of progress was made already. One of the big components of this in the original plan was creating the Office of Research, Outreach, and Economic Development, and that has been done, and that's been incredibly successful. So they were looking at some other things. I really have no idea where I should point this. And clearly I'm not effective at where I'm pointing it. So anyway, what we want to do is a couple things here, what they suggest, among other things. Increase on-campus internships. You know, it's very important, especially as Ford's here, we have opportunities to build partnership or internship opportunities with them. But what are the things that happen on campus that could help students as internships as well, and be better about being able to communicate that and track those things. Second is to basically track in some comprehensive way, what is it that our people on campus, students, others, do in the community, right? I mean, there's a lot of public service that happens on this campus, community service, and it's in all different parts of the campus, not one particular program or anything like that. So how do we get a picture of what UT Martin does around serving the public good? And I think that's very important. And the last thing is probably, to me, the most exciting thing of all of this, because there's so little that we know about it, but we know there's so much skin in this particular game. The Blue Oval City Response Team, working with Ford all the way from now until they start rolling trucks off the line in 2025, to make sure that we are helping them prepare people initially to get into that new complex with the training that they need, but also to help them as they think about how do we get our first line management, our supervisors who may not have completed an MBA program that they really need in order to rise up. How do we provide that? How do we provide engineering programs in a way that their folks can take it, they can complete a degree in it? How do we have degree completion programs for those who have some college but don't have a degree, who are hitting a ceiling in the Ford plant? All kinds of opportunities around Ford, and then all of the things that are touched by it. So infrastructure in West Tennessee. I mean, someone's going to be building all those charging stations that are going to come up once those trucks start running off the line. So I think there's a tremendous amount that will happen, and as I've said a couple of other times, you can't budget on opportunity, obviously, but if we're here in 5 years and there hasn't been a sizable impact, significant impact from Ford, I would be absolutely shocked. We just don't know what it is right now, we can't budget off that. So that is the strategic plan refresh, and I'm happy to take any questions you have. I mean, other than how to work this, because that I don't know, but I can answer the other ones.
Are there any questions as I look through my notes? I guess the question that I might have is, where are we on the diversity of the administrative people? You're going to increase it 5%. I don't know. Where are we, and
Sure.
what will that get us to?
So I think the 5% and I would certainly welcome Mark, if he were around to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we have a couple of senior leadership positions that will be filled over the next couple of years. A couple of deans that are going to be retiring. We have several department chair lines that are either interim, or we have no one actually covering it other than the dean his or herself. So Art, I'm going to say that's 7 different, just on the academic side, 7 different leadership positions that we're going to fill in the next 2 years. I think the intent of that group is to make sure that the search committees there's diverse representation on the search committees, that the search committees are aware that diversity is something that they should be thinking about, that Mark McLeod's office is part of helping them prepare for a search where they're maybe more aware of some implicit biases that they just to be thinking about, but then also trying to figure out how do we work from contacts that folks have in different areas to encourage diverse candidates to apply. Now, there are folks here who, I mean, a couple of these people I'm thinking of do not have tenure yet. And once they get tenure, then they will be people, I mean, I would talk to about pursuing this. Our Dean of College of Engineering and Natural Sciences, Nancy Bushhouse. 3 years ago, she was not interested in leadership at all. She's a great biology faculty member, totally student-centered. Shadow Robinson, who's not here, and as I've said before, is dead to us, but Shadow encouraged her to be a department chair for a year, just a year, Nancy, just 1 year, and then she did it a second year, but in that second year, she went through Dr. Smith's Executive Leadership Institute. During that time, she had an epiphany where she realized, okay, this is something I can do. I like doing, and I see why this is really helpful. She's now the interim dean, and that is, I know those stories are out there, I know there are others who just need to be encouraged, put in the right positions to then be able to, to take on some of those roles. So Art, that's a long answer, but I think those are the opportunities we have, and there's no one obvious way to do it, except lots of small pieces that, at the end of the day, we want to wind up having of those 7, 2 or 3 at least of those hires be from underrepresented classes or minority groups. So.
I think to add on to what Dr. Cavalier said, when you look at our student body, right now, we're about 25% non-white. When you look at students of color, international students, and while that's not great, it's certainly much more reflective of our region than when you look at our faculty staff percentage, which is down, around 10% in terms of our total employees. So we've got some work to do, and we can certainly do it. And we can do better, but keeping our eye on having a campus that really is reflective of this region that we're living in. And we've done a better job of it on the student side than we have in faculty and staff. So we'll commit to that work.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What is the handshake connection?
Software that tracks what's happening on campus.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know exactly how to say it. Andy would like to say something about it.
Well, we run it out of career planning and development. It's a piece of software that basically matches up employers to job seekers. And so it's specific to, it's available on college campuses. It's a nationwide product, and we're one of the ones that use it. And so that's basically where students sign up in it, have their resume in, what they're looking for, those kind of things. And then employers that are posting jobs on campus, they get posted within a handshake. And the idea is it matches those people that are interested for what they're looking for. We use it for part-time jobs, internships, full-time employment, all those kind of things.
That makes sense, much more sense than what I was coming up with when it's all said and done. Are there any other questions to Dr. Cavalier on the strategic plan refresh?
I have one. Given given approval by the board of the strategic plan, is there any sense of a timeline for the Center for Teaching Excellence?
So I think we need to have the program for that center. Program meaning like what would we want to do in that? What would the space? What would we need in terms of space? What would we need in terms of staffing? If the board approves it, done by middle of the spring semester. Because I think we can do some things even if we don't have a space that's been renovated yet. And EPS may create some opportunities that when folks move to the Latimer building that we haven't thought of yet. But I think more important than the space, more important than who is actually in that role is what is this thing going to look like? And I'd like that to be defined by March, I think at the latest.
Thank you.
And I think I would add to Dr. Starling that this was developed completely in line with the master plan and looking out at the things we've asked for in the master plan, including a new College of Business and Global Affairs. Does that excite you at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
He's going to be working in the admin building, he'll never see it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's true.
That's
I
right.
move in buildings, but it'd be nice for my friends.
That's right. And the students.
That's right.
Are there any other questions? Then we've been asked to approve this. There is a motion that needs to be made. It's actually on the action item within your notes. If someone would read and make that motion, I would appreciate it.
I motion that the advisory board recommends the proposed strategic plan for fiscal year 2022 to 2025 to the president as presented in the meeting materials.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second motion?
We have a second. Any further questions? I'll have a roll call vote.
Amon Ahmed,
Aye.
Albina,
Aye.
Moniz Hagler, she's saying aye.
Oh, she's saying aye, okay.
We're watching her virtually. Art Sparks,
Aye.
Anderson Starling,
Aye.
Johnny Wolford.
Here. Aye.
It's perfect. Your motion carries.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation, Dr. Cavalier. I believe our next item up is the Title IX update, and Dominique Crockett will be doing that.
Mr. Chair, while Dominique is walking up, many of you have not had a chance yet to meet Dominique. She's one of our newer administrative additions to our leadership team. She's hit the ground running. She is not a stranger to the University of Tennessee. Johnny, we stole her from the Health Science Center campus. So we identified great talent and we recruited them over. So she's no stranger to UT, especially West Tennessee, and she's doing great things for us. So Dominique, we're glad you're with us. The great thing was we stole you during one chancellor was leaving and the new chancellor was hired, so the new chancellor's not mad at me because he doesn't know that you ever worked there. So it's worked out well for me.
Yes, sir. Well, good afternoon. My name is Dominique Crockett, and I am the Director of Equity and Diversity and the university's Title IX coordinator. And so, there we go. Today I'm going to give you an overview of Title IX. So I'll just give a brief definition of Title IX. I'll talk about the UTM Title IX commitment, review a few things from our annual Title IX report, give you some campus Title IX updates, and then give you just a preview of our upcoming prevention and education efforts. All right, so I won't read it, but I just want to highlight that this year is the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and so I just kind of want to acknowledge the vision and the work of Bernice Sandler, Edith Green, Pat Summit, Patsy Mink, and Benny Giles. So they've paved the way for access to education, scholarship, athletics, and more for millions of women and girls. All right, so the UTM Title IX commitment is composed of 5 parts. Of course, the policy is the foundation. I can consider it the umbrella, because everything else kind of falls underneath the policy, but it's our foundation and it gives us the groundwork and the requirements and expectations of the federal government. And so with that, our next thing would be prevention and education. And we essentially use prevention and education to inform the campus about the policy, let them know that we have the policy, we have those protections, as well as highlight the issues that are protected in the policy. And so we do that through collaborations with different campus entities like the CARE team, the counseling center, RAP, and other community resources. We also let them know about the support. So those support measures are also found in the policy, and we let them know that they can access those supportive resources without making a report. So all we need to know as an office is that we need assistance, and we can give that to them. So we let them know that there's support available so they can continue to access those educational programs and activities on our campus. It also talks about investigation and resolution. A lot of our investigations, especially pertaining to students, those are handled through student conduct and care. As far as faculty and staff, those are usually handled through the Office of Equity and Diversity. And then with patterns and trends, those are mainly my focus. I look at different areas that may require further education and prevention efforts, and I kind of hone in on those things and make sure that we don't have any particular areas or demographics that may need further Title IX attention. All right, so our annual Title IX report, we completed that this year, and it's essentially a snapshot of all the things that the Title IX office has completed throughout that year. So it highlights our prevention and education and training efforts. In regards to training, we had a 100% completion rate, which is the highest in the system. for our faculty and staff being trained on our sexual misconduct policy, so I was very excited about that. We had over 1,200 students that were educated on the sexual misconduct policy. It also highlights different type of educational efforts, prevention, different campus engagement activities. So we had things like the Walk with Carver. We had the proclamation signing for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So it just kind of lets you know through all those commemorative months that are tied to Title IX, everything that our campus has done. But one of the other things that I really enjoy about the annual report, it provides statistics. So again, I'm going to be interested in those patterns and trends around campus. So any type of report of sexual misconduct that is on campus is going to be included, and not details, but the data specifically. So how many cases that we've had is going to be pulled out according to the location, the type of respondent, the type of sexual misconduct that it was. So we can have that data to really see what those trends are and where we need to work. As far as campus Title IX updates, we do have an upcoming annual Title IX training for our campus that will be coming out. It's a bit different than it was last year, so this will be a lot more interactive. So I'm hoping that they enjoy it and they learn a lot more. We've also had our Title IX and Clearing team. We completed a system-wide training. So any individual that has any type of Title IX affiliation, investigators, deputy Title IX coordinators, hearing officers, we were all involved in that training with all the other campuses in the system. So we did complete that. We also had Denim and Donuts. So that was one of the first events that I completed. I just wanted the campus to kind of see the Office of Title IX, know who the coordinator was, get some free donuts, but also get some information about Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the different types of resources that we have both on campus and in the community. And so I'm looking to do a lot more of that. I want the campus to really be engaged with Title IX, and not just because something has happened, but just for information and just being comfortable with coming and talking with you. So we're doing a lot more of that. As far as campus engagement, we've also done a lot in regards to back to school. So we worked with housing. We had 53 RAs that have gone through Title IX training. 683 students were educated during Welcome Weekend on our sexual misconduct policy, and over 100 PEP leaders were also educated on sexual misconduct. I've also had various introductions to different departments across campus, just so that they know who the Title IX coordinator is, what my goals are for campus. I've done collaborations with the care team, and my hope this year is to do some more presentations in the different residence halls, just presentations on consent, sexual assault, stalking, and domestic violence. So I'm really trying to get out there on campus and interact with those students. We've also updated our pregnancy policy, so that is now online. So we, under Title IX, we are required to provide accommodations, reasonable accommodations, for individuals that are pregnant. So I was able to complete that with the help of General Counsel. As far as upcoming prevention and education efforts, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so we've partnered with a few entities on campus. So one of our first events is going to be a Domestic Violence Awareness Brunch with Women of Excellence, and so we're going to have a speaker who is also an author and survivor of domestic violence. So she will be here October 8th. Her name is Erica Boyd, so I would love to have you all there. We'll also be partnering with Public Safety, and we'll have a self-defense training in the field house on October 12th, so I would love to have you all there as well. I'm thinking of doing lunchtime with Title IX, and again, this could be virtual, it might be monthly, but I just really want the students to be comfortable interacting with our office. So this is just another effort to get the students in the office and just comfortable with talking about things, asking questions, and looking for resources. And then lastly, I'll be doing a Title IX presentation with the Interfraternal Council. And so that is my attempt to get interaction with the Greek organizations. I'll be meeting with AOPI as well, just so that they're familiar with Title IX and our sexual misconduct policy. Well, are there any questions?
There we go.
Thank you for having me.
You know,
Yes, sir.
one of the things that you have on your annual Title IX report is to help identify patterns and trends. Have you identified any patterns and trends?
So we've had a bit of an uptick in the stalking area, and a lot of it is digital. So with things like social media, stuff like that. So we really are just letting the students know, hey, stop putting your locations on things when you're there, maybe put it when you leave, but you don't want someone to basically establish a pattern, like, I know that she'll be here on Wednesday at this time every week. So stalking has been one of the major ones this year. It's really picked up.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Dominique? I don't think we are required to accept this. It's just an update. Is that right? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Next item is capital projects update. I don't think we could have a meeting without Petra.
That's right, that's right.
Petra, the floor is yours.
All right. I'll see if I'm as challenged as Phil and Dominique with the clicker, so we'll see how that goes.
She's from Union City, she'll probably figure it
Yeah, she figured it out.
All right. Okay, okay, Phil, so first time So just to kind of give you a bit of information about our campus and what we're dealing with when we talk in terms of the capital area. We have a little bit over 2.5 million gross square feet of campus buildings. Nearly 800,000 gross square feet for housing. So we have a pretty large campus with 320 acres on the main campus. And if we include the farm, it's 1,000. So Martin is a beautiful campus, and we sure take pride in what we have to work with for it. We have about 89 facilities, employees, and they do a phenomenal job of trying to keep the campus really nice and create and foster a learning environment for our students and for our employees. When you look at the trash, I'm not gonna say trash, I'm sorry, recycling and trash, we have quite a bit that flows through our campus. So we really do try to be responsible with the items that we have that come through our campus. But just moving forward on our capital projects, for recent projects, whether recently completed or actually in some phase of construction, we're about $130 million in projects. So recently completed projects. Hopefully you all had an opportunity to walk through the Clement open house today. We're very pleased to have that project completed. It is work that was done on the first 3 floors on the northeast wing, with hopefully getting in phase 2, the 4th floor, completed that project as well as other areas. For a number of people who were in that space, and we had a lot of visitors who once were residents in that space come through, and it was really good to hear their stories about it. And Dr. Watkins mentioned that he was SGA president when that building broke ground, so and it was approved for a capital project. So it's a lot of rich history there. But it's really a great space for our students to go and have the one-stop shop, and then have a lot of the offices centralized and easily accessible. We also completed security upgrades. It was kind of a 2-part project. It included security cameras as well as door locks, so that on classrooms, faculty or the occupants of it, in the case of an active shooter situation, they needed to lock the classroom and shelter in place with the twist of a knob on there. We could actually do that. And here's an example of those This was done in the academic buildings. We have not done this in all buildings. Hopefully, we will be able to do this as well as office buildings at some point, but the initial focus was on academic buildings. Okay, Phil, I shouldn't have made fun of you too quick. You recently, last time, had an update for the master plan, so we were able to complete it, and it has received Board of Trustee approval, THAC approval, and State Building Commission approval. If you all have had an opportunity to visit our food court area, we had a project, slight change in the retail option there. We now have Freshens, and that required a capital project to get it in place, and then we were able to complete that in August. So if you all have not had a chance to sample the food there, it is really good. It's been a really good addition to our campus. And our students seem to be really pleased with it, as well as employees. I've probably been in the food court area or dining services more this week than I have been in quite a while. I typically bring my lunch, but didn't get it prepped in time. When we look at our projects that are in design, hopefully you all will miss the buckets that are in the mall and the Elam Center in the near future. We do have a project to repair the glass there, and that project is slated to start in early 2023. So if we are putting buckets out, it's to collect money, right, Kurt, or something like that?
That's right.
But not to catch water. All right, our indoor batting facility is a project that's coming up. We hope to also get started on it in the spring of 2023. And this is just a rendering, an example of what it would look like, but this is to replace an existing building. Well, it's no longer existing, it's not there anymore. But it was demoed, and we are looking to replace it with something similar, maybe the top being metal, and have it brick so that we can have a kind of a continuity of how our buildings look. But that is just a rendering of how that would possibly look for the new facility. Our Blaylock outdoor classroom building will start soon. We are waiting for the notice to proceed with it, but we do plan to have something going on as early as October. So that we can start the construction for it, but a lot of the planning has already been done. And this is just a rendering of how that outdoor building will look. The Hall Mooney Administration Building will have a system upgrade. I think the thing that we're probably most excited about is getting a restroom for both genders on all the floors. But that is not the real reason we're doing the building. We're doing it for the system upgrades to help with our HVAC system and the wiring in there. But,
Thank you, Petra.
but we do have to also consider ADA items when we're doing projects. It is not a renovation project, it is a system upgrade project, but those are things that we do need to address when we have projects of that nature.
We thank you, Petra, for the third floor bathroom.
Well, I'm pleased too.
Okay.
So that we can get one on the second floor, right? Grove Apartment demolition is something that we hope to get movement on really soon. The initial project was to demolish the first, the buildings and make it a green space, and then hopefully develop it more for outdoor programming. We do look at this as a project that we will have as a partnership between the city of Martin and the campus, and so that hopefully there's mutual benefit in having that new green space. But we will not miss Grove Apartments standing as they are now. The next thing is our EPS building systems project. There are a number of systems that, again, in that project will need to be HVAC as well as some electrical items. that need to be addressed in that building. We are waiting for it to be both vacated or a large number of the occupants moved to the new Latimer Science and Engineering and Science building. And so once that building is mainly vacated, part of it will likely be used during the Hall Moody project, but we will start on the EPS building, getting those system upgrades on. So part of that building would be done. There's not enough in the project to do the entire building, so there are certain wings of it that will be done. And then projects and construction. Bill, could you do this? So the engineering building is underway, and we are very, very hopeful to have it completed soon. As you see, the date on there for substantial completion is today, right? So that's what it's scheduled to be. We do not have a new date at this time. We do expect that to be next month. We have not received an updated date at this time, but we are nearing the finish of that part. There are some issues that will need to be addressed and probably have some remediation that occurs after occupants are in there. One of the big items are the floors. So we're going to have to actually address that. Both the construction company and the university acknowledge that that's it, but they're working with a specialist to come in and determine how can we remedy the problems that we have there. That is not anything that prevents us from moving in, but that is something that will have to be addressed. There are a few other things that they're working on punch lists now, and they're working through those. So that is one of the things that once we see what those punch lists are, will help determine when the substantial completion can be estimated. But that space has transformed quite a bit just in recent months. It's amazing to see that. We're very excited about it, and we'll have classes in there this spring. All right, so the Elam Arena lighting project has done a significant change. We were able to change the lighting there into LED lights, and it is a brighter area in there. And the really good thing is it doesn't take 15 minutes for the lights to warm up and come on. So, I mean, hey, we celebrate the little things, so we're glad to have that. But it does change the look, and people can actually be able to go in and make adjustments. We're also, as different events occur, the lighting can change. So that's one of the things that we'll be able to make adjustments, and we're glad about that. And then we have the test hub that is coming on board. We are excited about that project and hope to get started on it. Right now, we're in the process of having the programming verified and making sure that that is ready so that the other phases can happen. We'll start the bid process and the design process and the construction, which is slated for early 2026. If we can fast track it, we certainly will. But we're in the process of getting the design and the verification of the programming done. And then we have, kind of rendering a bit, the student center sewer line project is one that is underway that we hope to have it scheduled to take place in 2023. And Clement Hall, phase 2, is something that we're also starting to, we have that approved, and then we'll have to work through the various phases for it as well. South Chiller plant, that is something that we want to have on board, and hopefully can bring it on at the either before or at the time that we're doing the test hub, so that the test hub can connect to it. ROTC building, we do plan to have some brick repair work there. If you all have noticed, there has been some gating around that. And that is because we discovered that some of the brick ties were not attached well, and we needed to get that. It's a safety issue, and so we're in the process of getting that corrected, as well as dealing with some envelope items like the windows. And this is just a rendering of what we plan for it to go back. So that's kind of what we're looking at for capital projects. We certainly keeping busy with these different projects, but we certainly know that these investments in our campus really create where we live and work all the time and make those the best that we can. Are there any questions?
Petra, what are your statistics at the very beginning? Was that AFOE per gross square foot? What is the AFOE for us people that
Okay.
use numbers instead of letters?
I understand. I shouldn't use acronyms. It's the annual facilities operating expenses.
Okay. And I'm looking at $2.37 and 95 cents
For
on the
last-
utility, which says to me that those are pretty good. Are those pretty good
They
when you
are.
compare to your peer?
Yes, we're lower than our peers.
Okay. How big is the indoor batting facility?
It is, Kurt, do you remember, or Brian?
It was 30 by 80, and I think it's expanding to 40 by 80. Is that right, Fred?
I think so.
Okay.
With heating and air, which we didn't have before.
40 by 80.
I was trying to get an indoor football facility at the same time, Kurt, but 40 by 80 may be a little small for that.
It would be.
Okay.
Y'all have any questions?
Petra, I think we've got, obviously, talked a little bit about the master plan. We've got a couple folks on our advisory board real interested in agriculture. Talk just a little bit about what's coming in terms of easing access to getting to and from really the main campus to really getting north over where a lot of our ag activities take place, because that's really exciting.
Sure, actually, during the process, and it's really interesting because there was input in the campus master plan from a number of different people. But one thing that we all agreed upon was how do you get to the farm, we call it the farm side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so there will be a very intentional pathway, pedestrian pathway, to get people to the farm so that they can move easily between the main campus and the farm, and just looking at what those pathways are so that that can be easily done and not have to navigate the roads and people traveling, because some of those are narrow spaces. So there will be a north-south pedestrian flow that we will try to kind of direct where that will be, as well as kind of improving our east to west. The north to south, which is the farm connection, will be a big part of how we create that pathway.
A real nice sort of visible entrance to the farm area, which will be great. Be real exciting.
Any other questions about the capital projects update? Petra, I know you normally give us a report on one of our meetings on what the budget is and everything. How are you meeting the challenges? Is everything going well?
Actually, I think Phil kind of alluded to it, but we this past year for the FY22 process, we did have some adjustments to that budget, and for 23, we actually budgeted it flat. And so while we did have growth in our enrollment this fall, we had that in the head counts, but our FTE, and I look at how people pay, that is pretty flat. I think we were down 4, which is phenomenal given all of the challenges that we have. So we budgeted budgeted at a flat, and that's exactly
Good.
what happened based on the fall enrollment. Spring has an opportunity to exceed what we budgeted, because we always do it, but a percentage of the fall. So, you know, we can gain some ground there, but fortunately, there shouldn't be any further adjustments in the 23 year needed. And then also the strategic plan, planning group from Goal 4 was to estimate or have the different departments plan for 24, next fiscal year, to look similar to 23. And that did include some reductions in reallocation, but if they're planning at that same level, so essentially plan what they have this year as a continuation in 24, then that will allow a longer period of time to do more of the strategic plans about right-sizing the university after we have the enrollment decline, and then that way, as we build new programs, we can build it back the way we need based on the growth.
Okay. Any questions about any further things within the budget? Petra, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chancellor, I'm
Thank
going
you.
to turn it over to you for comments.
Thought you were gonna say a couple minutes. Couple minutes too?
No,
3?
you take as long as you want to, then some of us may stay around.
Okay, excellent, excellent. First of all, thank you all for being here today. Moniz, thank you so much for coming in virtually, and obviously 2 new faces at the table, and we're excited to have you guys as well. Really want to just talk just briefly about sort of the vitality of campus and how it feels this fall, and Iman and Dr. Starling probably can sense this too, but it feels like this summer and fall that we're actually a residential college again. And I say that we were so active with camps this summer. We had full participation in our 2 governor schools, Governor School for Agriculture, Governor School for Humanities and Fine Arts. Were fully attended, and it just felt active all summer. And that's bled over into the fall. And when you look at our campus, at our residence halls, we're 90% occupied this year. And so by 90% occupancy, we're up 180 on-campus residents over this time last year. And so it's a lot busier in the rec center and the cafeteria and all our campus spaces, but that's been really welcome. We're back to playing ball in earnest, and you know, this fall we're running track and cross country. We've got soccer and volleyball happening right now. Softball had a faculty appreciation night 2 nights ago. Of course, golf, football, equestrian are all competing and have good attendance and a lot of excitement. Of course, we had 4 conference championships last year. Kurt said we're going to double that this year and get to 8 conference championships this year. Actually, Kurt didn't say that, but I know he's thinking it. I am too. Got a big football game tomorrow night, and we invite all of you to come out and wear white. We're gonna white out the crowd and playing Lindenwood, an new OVC foe out of St. Louis, and we're gonna smack them around mightily. So excited about that happening tomorrow night at 6. Fundraising continues to go really well. Can't say enough about the work of our advancement team, but also our faculty, staff, and students who are all deputized alumni and development officers. We set record numbers for donors during COVID, which was fantastic, but it also had some record years for giving. We will close out a $175 million campaign early first part of next year. We're almost there. I think Charlie said they have to raise, what, $1,400 an hour for 24 hours a day? Okay, to June 30th to get there. So we're going to do that. His people aren't sleeping, but we're going to get there. And it's been a nice historic run, and our deans, our cabinet, everybody's been really involved in that, and it's really exciting. new academic programs are just going and blowing. And when we started the strategic enrollment plan in the middle, right before COVID kicked off, we were meeting. We had a consultant on campus to talk about the strategic enrollment management, our plan. The day we found out we're going to have to close for a little while and go remote. But that let us do a lot of planning during the pandemic, and so offering new programs like cybersecurity is already we're seeing enrollment benefits from all that. So we think the programs we've added are very much going to be growth areas for us, and so really excited about the future there. Just closing, I've made some notes today, and when we talk about a fall meeting or next meeting, just some ideas that have come up. Obviously, talking about budget more, I think would be a good thing. At lunch today, we talked about an update on transfers and transfer pathways, and not just with our community colleges, but also within UT. You guys also have mentioned that maybe getting Kurt McGuffin up and talking about the OVC and the state of the conference, and that's something I know Kurt would be happy to talk about. And then areas in covering retention and strategies we're using in retention, but also inclusivity too. And so we'll look at that. We'll talk to the chairman about winter meeting. All of you will be invited. October 27th and 28th, we'll have the full UT board will be meeting here, having their fall meeting here, and we're excited about showcasing our campus. We'll have an opportunity to do that. There'll be a lot of university-wide business taking place, but it's always nice to have them here. And with this new board, I would say 80% of those folks have not ever been to Martin, see our campus, and so we'll be excited about showcasing that and getting you guys. It'll be important to get our board members with the UT Board of Trustees for some interaction.
What day was that, 27th?
27th and 28th
Of October.
Of October. So you'll get more information about that. Finally, I just want to say that I'm closing in on the end of year 6 as chancellor, and it seems to be more exciting when you look at what's happening in retention, when you look at recruiting, when you look at new industry coming to this area, the success our student orgs are having in athletics, the way our alums are responding. It is a great day to be a Skyhawk, and I'm so happy to be here. So I'll yield my time if there's no questions. Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for the chancellor? I didn't realize he'd been here 6 years. I was thinking more like 12 to 15 that we've had to put up with. And I'm kidding. Since you're gonna speak for Kurt McGuffin, I think I heard Kurt say that if you and Charlie and Petra would double his budget, he would double the OVC championship.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that all it would take?
Yeah.
Okay. How about can we get like a 3.75 GPA cumulative maybe from that too?
It depends on if there's enough money in there to buy.
I understand.
No, I'll tell you what, things are looking real good, and as much as I kid the chancellor, I cannot say enough great things about what he has done for this university, because he and Bob Smith came in at a very rough time, and we all remember that. There were a lot of challenges. I give Bob Smith a whole lot of credit because he came in his year and a half, 2 years, did not have an agenda to try to become the new chancellor because he did not want to become the new chancellor. And he made a lot of decisions that had to be made that could be made by a person that didn't have an agenda. And then, in spite of being a Memphis State graduate, Keith, I can't say enough good things about him. We want to remind everyone that our next meeting will be our winter meeting, which will be January 20th of 2023. I would encourage you to try to be at the Board of Trustees meeting. I think it'll be interesting, and we'll show the Board of Trustees exactly what we have here, because we know what we have. And like he says, there's several of them that they don't know exactly what we have, the jewel that we have here in West Tennessee. Are there any other questions or announcements or anything else before we accept a motion to adjourn?
Will the trustees tour the facilities, like the Lattimore building and the farm?
They're gonna see what's interesting. Normally, we would do just sort of a campus tour, but because Bill Rhodes is so passionate, he's a member of the board, he is committed money for the new business building. He wants to do what he described, Edie, as an eye-opening tour. So he wants to do what he's calling best and worst. So while we are gonna go to the Latimer building, he wants us then to step 150 yards over and go in and see how crowded and outdated the business building is. And he wants to make sure they understand when we come forward with a capital project, that it will change the face of this university. So they want to see we need a new residence hall. We need to take down some residence halls and build a new one. The trustees want to see the best. He wants them to share the best residence hall, and then we're going to go over and we're going to show them the rooms that are very outdated and that sort of thing. So while they're going to get a campus tour and get a good idea of what we're doing in agriculture and all the big things, Bill Rhodes and Randy Boyd want to, and our chair, John Compton, they want to make sure the board understands that investments in Martin are really transformative. And it's not just a new business building. It's not just a new residence hall. It's not just something for ag research. I mean, when you do something like that here and see the need for it, he wants them to remember that sort of thing. So I think it's smart. So normally we would not show them the worst. We would show them the best. But they have specifically said we want to see your warts, and we've got some big warts, but we've also got some showcases too. So I think it's the first time we've ever been asked to do this. Any campus has been asked to do it, and so we're not going to make anything uglier than it is already, but we are going to find the ugly spots to show them. So, and I think it'll be effective to show them the need. I do.
And you have to admire Bill Rhodes, because he's not only saying we have a need in the business building, he's put the money in.
Yes.
And I didn't know that had been announced officially, but you can have nothing but great respect for Bill because of that. Any other statements? Is there a motion we adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do we have to vote on that? I didn't think so. We can vote. We don't have to do a individual. We're done. I appreciate it very much.